Welcome in, everybody. It is another episode of Scarves and Spikes, the ratings video. As you can see, our super high-tech boards are up here on the screen. Everybody's getting a little bit of a different face. Tommy is extremely sad. Sydney, he
put
was
my back
the
up.
most three-dimensional of all, which was cool. And he's just kind of like a meh.
High tech.
I like it. And then mine was also a meh.
Yeah.
So,
How do we keep doing this? How do we come out so hot and then we just disappear for like 60 minutes? It just keeps happening. Go on. I'm sorry. Just needed to get that out there. Continue.
well,
Ah,
that is going to be the episode today. We're going to be talking about really not so much individual players, but we're going to do ratings a little different. We're going to talk about the team for the first 25 minutes or so, and then the team after that for the rest of the match against DC United, because it was a tale of two parts. It wasn't even a tale of two halves because the team kind of started to fall apart at about halfway through the first half. So we'll talk about it. We haven't been able to do these in a while. Things have been a little crazy, but we know you guys enjoy them, and we figured we'd do something a little different today. So besides that, though, how's everybody doing?
Good. Doing well. Looking forward to Saturday against Montreal. Hoping that things can get back on track.
Agreed.
I love this time of the year. Like this time of the year is just great. Like Saturday, like now how it's all set up is like you got college football all day Saturday, then you got MLS at night, then Sunday you got the NFL and the Falcons. I love the weekends. I'm not leaving my house this weekend. I told my wife after partying with you guys last weekend, I'm like, we're not going anywhere this weekend. I'm just gonna enjoy sports.
Just stay at home.
Yep. So because I'm not recovered either, like, I don't know, man. It's also like the weather's changing.
Yeah.
Not feeling all that great. This match on Wednesday night didn't really do me any favors in terms of my happiness. So
No way.
all right, we'll dive into it. We'll dive straight into it. So Atlanta United. You have the first 20-25 minutes. You have the goal. You have things going okay. And we'll talk about that first. So give us your rating for the first, let's say, 25 minutes.
I got mine already.
All righty. Tommy, you good?
Yep.
All right, here we go. 7.5 for me, 9 for Sydney, whoo, and an 8.5 for Tommy. All right. So I'll go first.
All right, little score.
Didn't think I was going to be the lowest one here. Okay. All right, where to start? So Giakoumakis comes out, 3rd minute, bangs one off the woodwork, right? And you think, all right, they're getting in good spots. They looked aggressive, winning the ball back. They looked like they were on the front foot. They looked like they took DC by surprise. And it was all really going in favor of Atlanta. I mean, the right side was absolutely killing it. Saba and Brooks Lennon, they were on another level, Saba was getting in prime spots, but it ended up coming off of the left side where when the actual goal came, it was Tyler Wolff. He dispossessed DC in the attack in third, and he plays a beautiful ball to Saba. Saba really just has a redirected on goal, and you're up 1-0 within 15 minutes, right? It was all good. Like, I felt good about it. I felt wonderful. I felt like, all right, they're off on the front foot. They're carrying that momentum that they built, beating Miami 5-2. And it continued, but then DC really started to grow in the game, and it was rapid how quickly they grew in the game. But as we're talking about before that, I mean, I was happy with what I saw. I mean, honestly, it could have been 2-0, possibly even 3-0 that quickly. They just couldn't quite, bury a couple of chances, but they looked solid. Biggest concern to me is how quickly that switch just flipped and the game got turned kind of on its head. So that's my 2 cents.
Yeah, and DC had a couple counters, I think, during that time where, they looked like they could be being a little dangerous at that point, but Atlanta had an answer every time, and they were controlling it. And Saba, the guy's going to be dangerous. He's a long-term player here, and, 3 goals, 2 assists, and minimal minutes is pretty impressive with limited time to really gel with this team, right? So yeah, I mean it's exciting to see what this team could be, but like you said, it's just we've seen this. We saw this, kind of in the Cincinnati match as well, where you go through a short time frame where you're just dominating, and then you don't have an answer, or you can't calm down. But yeah, no, there's basically nothing to complain about. That's why I gave him an 8.5.
I said 9, partially because of Saba scoring, of course, number 9. But yeah, like you said, Tommy, 3 goals, 2 assists in 5 matches. It's just 198 minutes, so just remarkably efficiency from Saba ever since he's come into the team. And yeah, just was affecting the match really in that early portion of the night, I should say. But yeah, we were seeing it all night. They needed that second goal. It looked like they would get it at some point. I felt like they did a much better job controlling the match in the first 20, 25 minutes than they did later on. That being said, I said it before the match, DC are going to be hungry. They're going to be desperate. They're above the playoff line, but barely. And the margin for error compared to Atlanta United isn't as wide as it is for Atlanta, or as it is for Atlanta. So DC understand that they needed points, or they understood that they needed points, whether it was 1 point or 3 points. They could afford to drop points because, again, the standings are just so tight. If they'd have lost, there'd have been a point above the playoff line. So they had more to gain, I think, from this one than Atlanta United did. Granted, Atlanta United, they're still in the hunt for a top 4 spot, and they could still get it. But they looked the part, didn't they, in the first 20, 25 minutes? They really looked like a team that wanted to, I don't know if they went to end things early, but they asserted themselves on the road very well. Saba's goal was terrific, of course, and you thought that would be just the start of good things for Atlanta United, but as we saw, it wasn't. And I guess we can enjoy that from the match, I suppose.
Yeah, and the thing is, I mean, I wrote it a little bit on Dirty South Soccer in the article, but like a draw is a draw, is a draw, is a draw. Like it's not bad, especially in MLS, because we're always going to hear, it's hard to play away. And I understand the travel, the distances. I totally get it. I think my biggest frustration is a team like Atlanta, with the aspirations that Atlanta has, and now with the talent that Atlanta has. This was a game where you wanted to see just that extra little bit, because you should have won this match. Let's be honest. You want to see from a team that's fighting for a spot in the playoffs, almost has it, but is trying to bump themselves up to that top 4 spot. You want to see a little bit of extra fight, a little bit of extra edge, and the ability, like when the game starts to break away and not go your way, for you to figure out a way to settle it down and get back in control. Because, we always talk about possession, right? With Atlanta, that was definitely a big topic for most of the season. And possession, again, possession is not a bad thing. Effective possession and efficient possession is what you want. But what's so, I think, frustrating is like when this team just needs to find a way to possess the ball, they can't. When they have to do it, when they have to, find a way to break a high press or an aggressive press and move the ball, or just hold on to the ball and kind of frustrate the other team, they don't do it. They try to force a square peg into a round hole. And I think that's kind of maybe what started happening, moving on to this next part, around that 25th minute or so. Things just kind of started to crumble slowly, but they started to crumble. So we'll get into that. Get your markers.
Let's say you're jumping ahead, man. Jumping ahead.
Yeah, sorry. I got mine. I don't know if I'm going to be the lowest.
Should we tell them about the Patreon episode we're doing, previewing Saturday's match against Montreal? So
yes, let everybody know.
Patreon.com/Scarves and Spikes. You'll be able to hear our preview of that match. go ahead and jump on board. Of course, 7-day free trial, get access to all of our content and our Discord server. So little mini commercial there before we reveal our ratings.
Yes.
Our Discord's starting to hop.
Yes, it is.
Speaking
Yeah,
of,
we gained quite a few followers over the weekend, so we appreciate all of you. And yeah, it's becoming a fun group. We're adding different channels every couple days, it seems now.
yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And go to our website,
Yeah.
scarvesandspikes.com, and go buy yourself some stickers.
Yes.
They're not expensive, and you can go slap them all over town or wherever you want, non-vandalizing.
Yes, indeed. Don't vandalize.
But go,
All right.
go pick them up. So yes,
What are our scores?
post
What are the
25 minutes
selections?
Atlanta United versus DC. What do we got?
Ah, very good.
4.5 for me, Sydney. Oh
This is
God,
a
Sydney 5.5.
5.5. I know
Tommy,
it's kind of hard to tell.
Tommy with a 2.
Cool.
All right, Tommy, go ahead, buddy.
Good grief.
It sucked. It was terrible. It was. I am so sick of this team turning the switch off, and I don't know how you go from one to the other. How do you not calm down? You felt the game turning. You made changes. Around the? I think Tiari or not Tiari Silva. Who else comes in? Silva and Mascara come in at the 60th minute, somewhere around there. Like they're meh. They're just meh. Like I think they should have came in earlier because you already felt the entire game changing, right? Like it was getting frustrating. This time you weren't going back to back. Like we complained about the Cincinnati game, we were kind of comparing on the watch along. In the Cincinnati game, it was going back and forth, right? It was all DC at that point. DC was just controlling the game. I think Silva should have came in a little bit earlier to do what he needed to do. Like this is the second game back from the break, right? You had 2 weeks off. Some of these guys weren't in international duty, right? So they shouldn't be that exhausted. I know you have a game on Saturday at home, but you can change some things around here. And like, I'm not a huge Sosa fan here, but maybe you needed Sosa to maybe help calm this game down a little bit in the midfield, right? You had nobody to come in. Like you're nursing a lead right now. We've been talking about Ozzy Alonso would be the guy that comes in late in the game to try to calm things down, get the other team frustrated. You don't have Ozzy Alonso. You had nobody on this bench that could come into this game and slow it down for you. And that's a roster building problem. But I also think it was just I don't know what's going on with Sosa, but I think it was just weird that he wasn't in the lineup. And honestly, I don't even remember. Was he on the bench for Miami?
I'll have to go back and check.
I think
Okay.
so. Yeah, I'm not 100% positive.
But that's weird. Like that's just weird to me that he's not there. Like you have all these guys that are kind of all do the same thing, and you just don't have anybody for this situation. And this is going to be a problem in the playoffs because playoffs, whether you're on the road or you're at home, teams are going to get desperate. Sydney, you said it. DC was desperate. They woke up and said, "We've got to get a point in this game." What, 22 shots?
Yes.
Was it 22
Well,
shots
Yeah.
or something like that?
Ended up being 19, I think is what I saw. But on
Okay.
TV they showed 22. But anyway, it was a lot.
That's ridiculous. Like you're not playing Cincinnati. You're not playing the top teams in the league. You're playing DC, and you allowed that many shots. No, you get a 2.
I mean, hey, look, I mean, you're coming in hot. I was hot on Twitter Spaces that night. I think I was next lowest, right, Sydney? Or middle,
Yeah, let's
whatever.
go for it. Let's go with it.
So, yeah, I mean, I agree with a lot of the points. I mean, you have to find a way to close out these matches. If you're being frustrated by a team that isn't going to let you be the 3, 4, 5 goal Atlanta United, which is not, I mean, you're not always going to get to do that. That's fine. And to be fair, DC's defense over the past handful of games has been exponentially better.
Yeah.
So you've got to find a way once you do clip a goal or two. Obviously, you're always going to want to go and get that second goal. But if you can't, and it became blatantly obvious by about the second half that second goal was going to be hard to come by, and it was going to have to come off of like just a counter or something. And they, there were times that they started trying to play the ball kind of long, but they also tried to force things a little too much. And Jay Fortune, who I think played a decent game, like it wasn't bad, but he also got marked, like heavily marked in that match, and made it difficult. And that's just experience, right? And we have to understand this was a Wednesday match, 3 games in 7 days. So there's going to be rotation, but you've got to find a way. That's what it comes down to. You have to find a way. Now, Tommy, you mentioned the roster building aspect of it. Garth Lagerwey has mentioned, like, they still need another, I think it was on 92.9 the game. They still need another good window before they're where they really want to be, which is understandable. Again, there were a lot of things to fix with this roster. You can't do it in one window, but it's a missed opportunity and it's frustrating. And at some point, the mindset on the pitch has to be like, I don't care, what we thought we were doing when we came into this match or what we thought we were doing after we went up a goal. It has to literally take a step back and say, the whole team has to say, we may squeak this one out 1-0, but we're going to do it. It's going to be 1-0. We're going to keep the clean sheet and get the win, not cough up another in the final 15 minutes goal to drop 2 points, essentially, because that's what it was. I mean, this one, home team, it felt like a win for them. It felt like a loss for Atlanta. And you could have, I think, I may have done the math wrong, but I think had you won, you would have clinched that playoff spot, right? Or did the other results go
I think so. Yeah, they would have clinched.
And this is my last point. Again, I worry because to me, I feel like this is a bigger concern going into the playoffs, kind of like you were saying, Tommy. If you can't do it now in a non-playoff environment, going away, getting a win when you should get a win. Like, it's one thing to go and draw a team that's good away. Like, that's good sometimes. But this was a team that you should have beat, you could have beat, you would have beat, and you didn't. You're about to go into the playoffs where you're going to at least play one away game, no matter what. And you don't want to make it harder on yourself by not being able to close out a game. They've got to figure that out. I understand there's still some chemistry. There was a lot of rotation. Well, some rotation. You had 3 different starters and a lot of subs. Some guys we haven't seen in a while. Jay Fortune and Machop Chol, but Machop came on late anyway. But like, the thing is, like, those are excuses. I think you're at the point in the season now where you should be able to get it done. And you only have a handful more games before you get to the playoffs to figure out a way to get it done in these matches that are not going to be easy in a playoff environment away from home.
Your last 2 away games are Philadelphia.
Yep.
And Cincinnati.
Yeah.
Yep.
This was your road game that you needed to win.
Yeah.
100%.
So you probably need 8 points, probably gets you close to the top 4 spot. I would say certainly 10 points does. But then, Tommy, you have to beat either Philadelphia outright or Cincinnati outright. I feel like a little more confident about Philadelphia than I am Cincinnati, but that's putting the cart way before the horse. Hey, look, I mean, Tyler, you said it. You can't lose this match, especially no disrespect to DC, because it's a quality result. It's a much needed result. And again, they were a hungry team. They needed this arguably more than Atlanta United needed it, because they're desperate for points to position themselves higher up in the table than NYCFC is at 34 right now. Chicago is on 33. Charlotte is on 33. So they're able to pad themselves a little bit more and give themselves a little bit more margin for error. Still then, and like, they probably can't lose but one more down the stretch if they want to make the playoffs. Probably have to get points in all of their matches if they want to make the playoffs, maybe. But at the same time, you can't lose this match. Like, that second goal has to come from somewhere. And I saw someone saying on Twitter they may have, or they stopped trying to win. I don't know if they stopped trying to win, but it's just didn't handle DC the way that they should have. And DC's kind of done this to this team. I mean, not recently, but in the past, have gotten results against Atlanta that really, yeah, to be completely blunt, Atlanta United should have gotten. And from a talent standpoint, marginally, this is a much better team than earlier this season. You'd like to think that a lot of the mistakes that they made, a lot of the bad habits that they fell into. I know Brad Guzan really, I guess, I asked him that question in the locker room a few weeks ago. But I mean, these are bad habits. Like, you like to think that this team has handled this and has been able to get the mentality to close these matches out. And you know, it's not the end of the world. I'll say this: it's not the end of the world. I mean, they still have a slim chance at making a top 4 playoff spot, although it becomes much more difficult with this draw. But at the same time, you have to respond against Montreal. Montreal, by the way, has just won twice away from Stade Saputo. So this is just a match that's right for Atlanta United to bounce back, right for them to make this a fortress like they have in the past and really assert themselves at home, because they've had big home wins already. Against Nashville, that's a big home win. Philadelphia, another big home win. So, like I said, this makes it a little more, not a little bit, a lot more difficult to get a top 4 spot. You got to beat Montreal. No ifs, ands, or buts about it, because if you lose to them, you're probably out of the hunt for a top 4 spot. And like I said, you have to win at least one match on the road, whether it's Philadelphia or Cincinnati. And that's assuming you take care of business at home, which you should without any question. So, yeah, disappointing against DC. You have to close it out. I guess the silver lining about playoffs is the first round, there are no penalties. So if this were a playoff match, this would have gone straight to penalties, and you would give yourself half a chance, because it's pretty much equal footing at that point in time. But at the same time, regular season, looking for a top 4 playoff spot, gotta win. And hopefully this doesn't carry over to playoffs. Hopefully they get their heads screwed on over these next 4 matches. They're going to qualify maybe as soon as Saturday against Montreal. But yeah, like you're kind of saying, Tyler, you got to get this out of your system, because it's going to be a short stay of the playoffs if you don't. So,
you looked at the player availability for Saturday, and one of the things I was wondering was, were we going to see any injuries to any of the guys that started? Giakoumakis, Almada, because Sydney, I think you posted you tweeted, I think, on the video of where was it Silva and Almada were running, right? And
yeah,
and he pushed back, Almada looked like he stopped, and I think people were thinking that maybe he was injured, and it doesn't seem like that's it, right? Like, it doesn't seem like these guys are injured, but you question it. Like, you wonder, because Almada, we've talked about Almada for a little bit. Like, he's doing good things. He seems to be pressing a little bit too hard lately, looking for that goal. In that Miami game, just too much, just holding on to the ball too long and then just giving it up. And then you saw that, and it was like, okay, you've got the rush. You should score here. And it just didn't work out.
I'll say this, and you didn't get the benefit of a video when watching it live, and that's we're all kind of freaking out. He may have been offside. The pass may have come in when he was in an offside position, so if he had touched the ball, the play from whistle did anyway. So I could understand if that was the case. And now with that context, I can definitely see that. But again, you don't get that benefit with the way the camera is. Part of me was just saying, just run anyway, to see if the call is made. Maybe the AR says you're level with the defender. But I mean, that makes sense now. But no, to a larger point, and I don't want to stretch this out, to a larger point, Almada, we need to see a little bit more from him. He's a fantastic player, going to be in the hunt for MVP. I don't think he'll get it, but he needs to show MVP ability, and whether whether if it was because he was marked out of the play too many times against DC or what. He didn't show it, unfortunately, against DC. And you need your players to step up in big ways, in big moments. And gotta be honest, Thiago didn't really do it against DC.
Yeah, and we've seen that a little bit this season. It's not like it's a glaring problem because he's still best player in the freaking league, right? Like, I mean, Messi, whatever.
Top 5, top 10.
But at least he's playing.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, like, he's there. But I think that's the next step in his game. And he's done it this season. But the next step is like, find that clutch gene, right? And make something happen when the rest of the team just can't. And
we need playoff Thiago. So
yeah. We need match against
everyone.
San Jose on opening day. Thiago is what we need. But no, I mean, it's there. It's there. I'm never gonna dog on Almada much because the dude he puts in the shifts for sure.
Yeah.
And some of that is like he is a young guy still, very much so. And like, I think then one of the next things for him to work on and the coaches to kind of work with him on would be like when things are not going the way that we have planned out for you as the number 10, what can you do to get involved? That doesn't mean drop back to the number 6 position just to get the ball. Like the team has to understand how to make things work in a different way with him. Plan B, plan C, whatever. I would like to see that, because if you can just change a little bit to get Almada back into the game, you've effectively made Atlanta the better team just like that. So anyway, would like to see it. Like to see maybe that next step in his game over the next few, hopefully well into the playoffs. Who knows if he's here next year? Don't think he will be, but we'll see. Speaking of the next 4 games, we talked a little bit about it, Sydney. You got Montreal. You have Philly at their house.
Mm-hmm.
You have Columbus back at home.
And
then you have Cincinnati away.
At TQL, yep.
So right now, as it stands, Atlanta has played 30 games. There's no other team in the playoff race right now except for DC that has played 30 games.
Yeah.
Every other team
That's
has at least a game, if not 2, in hand. Philly has 2.
Yep.
So you have to, like, the Philly and Columbus games, really, they're your hardest ones, I think. Cincy's going to be tough. But Philly and Columbus are right there. They're at 48 points. You're at 46. So you get wins against them, and that's huge.
Like I said, 8 points maybe,
10
points for sure. So
yeah,
you got to split at least one of those matches. You got to get 4 points out of those 2 away matches. For sure.
Yeah, which is not easy. That is not going to be easy. But, you also have a good amount of time after this match against Montreal before you play Philly. You have a lot of time to study things up. You have a lot of time to rest. You have a lot of time to get Jamal Tiare hopefully involved and maybe somehow into the lineup to where he can sub on and make a difference. You'll give Shande and Muyumba, who have been running like crazy, give them a little bit of rest. Almada is another one. Like you have ways to make this work to go in your favor. I think, though, Atlanta United fans, and we'll be doing it here on the show over the next few weeks, I'm sure we're going to be doing a lot of scoreboard watching.
Yeah.
So hopefully they could just win out and make it easy.
Yeah,
but,
exactly.
We'll see. So, but that's what it's looking like for the next 4 matches.
We should just be comfortable with them not finishing in the top 4, in my opinion. We just should start getting ready for that. There's just the games in hand aren't going to help.
Yeah.
It's going to be very difficult. I don't want to be I'm trying not to be negative, but I'm just trying to be realistic. Like,
you're right.
It's going to be very. It's going to be hard, these are the type of points all season that you've missed out on, right? I think this is the fourth or fifth game where you blew it in the last 20 minutes or whatever. Like that's just, we can go back at the end and say, all right, these 2 points that we missed here, 2 points, like that's 8-9 points. Hey, if you could have got those points early in the season, you'd be going for top 2.
Exactly.
You would be chasing Cincinnati right now. You would actually be, if you had not given up games, both away and at home, points in the last, I think, 15 minutes. I tried to look this up earlier. My math might be slightly off, but you would be sitting at 54 points right now. above Orlando and 5
Right.
points behind Cincinnati.
He'd have been
And other
qualified
well,
for
and other
playoffs at
teams,
this point.
right? And like other
Yeah.
teams, obviously have some issues, some more than other. Like Columbus, how many points have they missed out on at the end of games? Right? Like they didn't just draw, like they've lost games. That game against Orlando, like I think we looked at
Yeah.
it, Tyler. We were together, and they're like, "Oh, Orlando was up Columbus was up like 3-1 or something like that," and then
Yeah.
they lose 4-3 or something. It's like, oh, like we're not as bad as other teams are at blowing leads. But yeah, I mean, this is just something that they're going to need to learn, and
Yeah.
again, this is all going into the Pineda end of year evaluation too. Like we don't know if Pineda is going to be here or not. Like nobody does. They haven't. We'll see what happens in the playoffs. But these situations where you just can't close out games, if you run the same situation in the playoffs, your evaluation at the end of the year is like you've missed out on like 5-6 games on the road where you blew at the end. Same old story. And what happened in the play? If this happens again in the playoffs, this is a long-lasting problem. Again, some might be because of roster restraints, but it's still happening.
Yep. Yeah. So obviously, again, have to beat Montreal on Saturday. We'll be doing a Patreon episode on that. So again, patreon.com/Scarves and Spikes. As Tyler said, scarvesandspikes.com. Get you some stickers and support Scarves and Spikes. But
Yeah,
I think that's it.
I think that is it. It was a good time. Good time.
Was a good time.
Yeah.
Twice.
But y'all did swap places, I think. Yeah, so Patreon, that like Sydney said, go check that out, and then we'll have the game tomorrow. And for those of you listening after the fact, we are recording this on Friday, so Saturday. And then we'll be back at our regularly scheduled time, I do believe, next week for the regular show. And we'll go from there.
For sure.
Thanks for watching, and we will see you next time.
See you guys.
Have a great weekend.